I turned my life around while I was in prison, but it wasn't a perfect path. I got in trouble, I got into fights, and I went to the hole. And going to the hole, except for one time later under investigation, which was just crazy, was almost always about fights. Now, there was one time I went to the hole for possession of pancake syrup, because anything you have outside the chow hall becomes contraband, which is ridiculous. Even the administration laughed about that one. But usually there are fights that I should have walked away from. There was only one fight that I actually started, and that was because somebody stole from me. The guys had all told me, they literally brought me a knife. Were like, yo, you need to make an example of this dude. If not, somebody's going to take advantage of you. I didn't take the knife. I did start the fight. Turns out that wasn't even the guy that stole from me. The point was, I got into fights, and even the ones I didn't start, I should have walked away from. I should have figured out how to de-escalate, but all those happened within the first 5 years that I was locked up. Because when I got locked up, I was 18 years old. I was 150 pounds. I definitely did not have the confidence or the comfort level to do the things that I could do now. I didn't understand people. I didn't understand de-escalation. I was scared. So when something happened, I would just punch. Or when somebody told me I needed to go fight somebody, I would go fight them. When somebody threatened me, I would respond by punching them in the face. And in some ways that was effective, but it didn't really achieve the effectiveness that I wanted. So all it did was get me in trouble. Yeah, it made it like squash the situation, but there was still tension or there was still whatever. Whereas if we had talked it out, if we had figured out what was going on, that would have been the better path. Now, that doesn't always work. There were definitely situations where you didn't have a choice or I didn't have a choice. One later on, this I guess don't really consider a traditional fight. It was a guy who had a mental breakdown. Like, he was like literally losing his mind and just lashing out. So it wasn't like we were fighting. It was as much as like, this dude is attacking me because he's crazy. I'm just trying to restrain him and defend myself. But whole point was I was young and I was stupid. They didn't teach us how to do any of those things. They didn't talk about de-escalation. They didn't talk about nonviolence. They didn't talk about communication. So everything that I learned in prison was really in spite of prison rather than because of it. And if we taught those classes, if we had things where we're like, hey, we assume that everybody knows these skills or has this understanding of the world because that's how somebody who grows up in middle-class America is. But just like we had somebody go to the juvenile center yesterday and be like, hey, do you have any questions about money? Do you have any questions about personal finance? And people were asking questions that I think most of the public would think everybody knows, but they don't because they didn't grow up around it. They didn't grow up around people who had that experience or had that knowledge. So we expect them to understand. We expect people to understand how to communicate or de-escalate. We expect people to do whatever, but they've never been exposed to it. If you grow up in a home where everybody speaks German and somebody expects you to speak English, that's kind of ridiculous, right? So you go up in a home where people respond to conflict by yelling or by fighting or by beating somebody up, well, that's probably what you're going to do because kids grow up in the home. That's where they learn things. The point being, Chris can do a lot better. We could actually make it a place where we educate people, where we say, hey, these are the base expectations and these are the skills you need to accomplish them. But instead, we just throw people in there like, stop being bad. Yeah, it doesn't work.